Yeah. Yeah. I know they mad for no reason. I'm holding on to change my life. Gotta move fast for a reason. I'm holding on to change my life. Huddling. I'm staring at charts until I retire. Yeah. Huddling. I'm staring at charts until I retire. Oh, 700K, I'm selling a Bitcoin. Haters mad, but they listen to this one. More profit coming to my direction. You know me, I don't need a mention. I got the remedy, ooh, yeah. They don't just follow me, ooh, yeah. You say allegedly, ooh, yeah. You would subscribe to me, ooh, yeah. Staring at chart, drawing a line. Make a decision, you out of time. Huddling, huddling, huddling. I'm staring at charts until I retire. Yeah. Huddling, huddling. I'm staring at charts until I retire. Yeah. See on stage. On-chain revolution. Guns. Boom.
Welcome back to On-Chain Revolution. My name is Shizzy. On this channel, we cover the entire crypto ecosystem. What is up, guys? We have an amazing show for you guys today. We're live from the On-Chain Hour, and we got Bitcoin sitting around 89,700, but we got the real gold, the non-digital gold, hitting another all-time high today, up 2%, sitting at 4,400. Remember when we laughed at the gold buyers for standing in line to buy gold? Well, they're all in profit. Remember we laughed at silver when silver was $35? It's now $70, right? The gold and the silver bugs are winning while us crypto guys are losing. I mean, it's not losing, but we didn't have the year that anyone thought we were going to have. Bitcoin had a good year. Looking back, Bitcoin, it is sitting negative for the year because we were higher on the 1st of January than we probably will be on the 1st of this January. But it did rocket to new all-time highs of like 126, and now we're sitting around 89,000. So we do have Ethereum sitting just above 3,000, 3054. Solana sitting at 128. But there's a prediction going around from Tom Lee's team saying they could see Bitcoin at around 60,000 in 2026. They could see Ethereum anywhere between 13 and 1,800, and they could see Solana between $50 and $70. Yes, a report from Tom Lee's Fundstrap. It wasn't Tom Lee himself, but it was somebody on his team put out a report and said the next couple months could be a little rough for crypto. And then you have a guy I truly respect, Loukas. He came out and Bob Loukas, he basically came out and said that he sees a bear market that bottoms on around June. And that would kind of put it with the 4-year cycle. We do know the 4-year cycle usually bottoms around 12 months. So if October 6th was the all-time high, then, potentially October 6th of 2026 could be the bottom. Who knows, right? Who really knows here? That would suck. If we don't get bullish in Q1 of next year, I don't know, man. I don't know what to think at this point. I really don't. But we do have a strategy coming out, and they've, they put a dot on their chart, but they bought the dollar. They didn't buy Bitcoin. They somehow got a whole bunch of dollars and added it to their treasury here. So are they kind of getting ready for something? Scary times could be ahead, guys. And it might not be all sunshine and rainbows like we think, but who really knows? So without further ado, let's get the show started. Bringing my partner here, as always, Mr. Yagobi. What's up, buddy?
What's up?
What's going on, dude? How you feeling? How was your weekend? How's everything?
Weekend was good. Fun. We did a little Sunday Fun Day live stream yesterday, which was fun. Got to watch some craziness that's happening in the world with like Jake Paul fighting Anthony Joshua. and just crazy stuff like that. And then football was fun, obviously, and getting to jump into to have a little chat with our audience and stuff is always fun, right? And Sunday was one of those days that we were just really relaxed and jumping into stream and stuff like that. So yeah, we're gonna see if this week is a strong week for Bitcoin, or if it's more chop, because we've seen a lot of chop back and forth between as low as 84, 85 to getting up to 90. So hopefully we break out of this.
Yeah, the stock guys I listened to this morning, they're basically saying the Santa Claus rally starts today. It's kind of what they're saying. They're saying that the next 8 to 15 days are going to be very bullish for stocks and their area. But then I heard them say that, before they started trading, they were looking at the Bitcoin chart. They look at the Bitcoin chart to kind of see where the market is going to open. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about TradFi looking at our charts to kind of seeing what to do with their assets?
Yeah, at first I thought that was pretty weird, and then I realized that it makes sense, right? Because if they're trying to get a kind of a head start in a sense of the week for TradFi, it makes sense because there's a lot of people that are in the TradFi sector that are trading Bitcoin, right? It's become a part of that, sector in a sense, with the ETF and all that good stuff. Now, is this like a new norm? Probably, because it's almost kind of like Bitcoin setting the sentiment for the week, and they're winning off of this strategy.
Yeah. And Bitcoin does trade 24 hours a day. There's no stopping it, right? So when Europe markets are closed, I guess you look at a market that's open, right? That's hasn't closed, and maybe you can kind of see the sentiment. It used to be weird. It used to be, everyone used to say, like, Bitcoin follows stocks, but in this sense, it feels like stocks follow Bitcoin. Has Bitcoin become the leader in the sense of risk on?
Well, yes, I think so, because it's the safest risk on asset. And so I don't think they look at it necessarily as risk on in a, very kind of, I guess, extremely cautious approach or anything like that. But it is the beginning of it, right, for them to look at it. So you have to imagine, Bitcoin did have a good year this year. It didn't have a great year that we expected necessarily, right? But if you look at the people that bought whenever it pulled back last time, I mean, they're all in big profits, right? If you bought like between 20 and 30K, and you sold at like even 115, 120. And so you did see these TradFi guys buying the ETF. And so, yes, it's kind of a start to the risk on. They will start at Bitcoin and maybe not go down far, right? And that's kind of what happened this year, right? So they are starting to look at it as a gauge of how the market's thinking, right? And
Yeah.
I think we're gonna start probably doing that more as well. I think that TradFi gets mixed in with our industry even more, just because things are going to be tokenized as well. So we got to think about, like, where can we get the upper hand? And I think it's going to be just learning how the integration of both sides happens.
Yeah, it might even be like taking their strategies, right? Like I've been watching like these TradFi shows for probably the last 4 years, really just trying to learn an edge. And I learned a lot about like relationships with every stock has a relationship with another stock when it comes to price action. If, let's just say, Pepsi and Coca-Cola, and you have Apple and Google, right? Like if one has a good day or one has news, you trade the other one because it's a laggard, right? So I've learned a lot about that. Now I'm going to try to take strategies that I've learned throughout the last couple of years that have all been TradFi and kind of use them for crypto. But I need crypto to kind of break away from all red, all green, right? We need to have like sectors like they do in TradFi. And that's what I'm going to be looking for over the course of the next couple of years, is what sectors are forming that, if this side is down, this side is up, and the relationships between the coins in those sectors.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's what's going to form this in 2026. We're going to see, just the stronger parts of crypto really thrive, and some of the weaker parts possibly, not get much attention at all. The more playful parts. I do think like the casino style stuff will probably always be there, just because it's, there's a group of users that look forward to that, but it could be very much overshadowed in terms of liquidity and capital going into the more I guess, stronger sectors, whether that's DeFi, stablecoin yield, and RWA stuff, that kind of stuff. I expect 2026 to be a big year for.
Yeah, I mean, you got to remember too, like TradFi did have their shitcoins at one point, right? They had, if you're in the movie Wolf of Wall Street, they were selling penny stocks, and they're like, his mom's really nice. I talked to her on the phone, like, and that's how they were talking about these companies and stuff, right? And they were like, oh, they built it out of their mom's garage and stuff. So they had their shitcoins back then, and it's just like now this is like just the new version. Kind of, but let's kind of jump into today's topic of the day, which is Bitcoin deciding week, breakout incoming, or more painful chop ahead. Going into this week, I was thinking very bearish, right? But the close last night was good. The weekly close. I'm sorry, Sunday night. Yeah, last night. And then, you are kind of seeing TradFi, gold, and silver kind of get bullish here. So I'm actually thinking potentially we can get up to 96 potentially in the next 8 to 15 days. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I could see it, right? Do I think it's going to be, really like a huge event if that happens? Not necessarily. I think we got to get back over 100K for our space, like the Web3 natives, crypto Twitter, to get excited and have energy again. And so, that might take until getting into the new year, right? And getting settled and all these, talks about people getting more money closer to tax season, all that stuff. But it's obviously a step in the right direction. Getting into a positive price trend is going to be a plus, and we'll see how it positively affects the rest of the space. Because I think that's what you're kind of talking about, right? It's like, yeah, Bitcoin going up is great. I mean, you got to start there, but we need the other parts of the space to start showing strength and thriving, right? And there are some tokens or projects that have shown strength, but it's not a ton, right? You're talking about like a very small group. And we just kind of need to see that. And I think it takes probably getting into 2026 to start to see that develop more.
Yeah, for sure. But there is pushback against that, right? With the great Bob Loukas, like I mentioned in the show here. So he put out a tweet. He says, seeing manipulation cries to explain the 2025 pure cope. It's called sellers. The 4-year cycle saw faster accumulation early. Then whales have been unloading ever since. And alts, well, most are just trash. And that game has been played twice before. And the AI sector capturing the attention. The positive, we could potentially be looking at an early July, August to the 4-year cycle low. Bob Loukas still thinks the 4-year cycle is intact, with October 6th being the top, and potentially August, July, and August might be the bottom. But that would be a really, really negative year for crypto if we are bottoming in July, which means we're just downhill only from here.
Yeah, it definitely would be. Right. It'd be painful to get through that, but I don't expect 2026 to be that type of year because, we are going to be, in a different monetary policy. And, if he truly believes that, then I think he has to admit that he was wrong about a lot of stuff. If he thinks that, the cycle was completely over and we're in a bear market, because he called certain price points for Bitcoin to be at, and so, for him to say that the 4-year cycle is still intact, we're over, it's done. I feel like that doesn't align with what he has believed in this entire time.
No, he's never put a number out there he's never put a number for this top. He's always said left translated cycle or right translated cycle. And now he's basically saying that we basically had a normal cycle. So he wasn't sure if we're going to left or right, but now he's basically saying that it was a normal cycle, just like every time before. He's never really put a Bitcoin from my
Did he call normal cycle was probable?
He said he thinks it's going to be a left translated cycle or a right, but so
he's
technically wrong. There was a normal cycle, so he's basically saying that this was a normal cycle and he's expecting it to end in July. He's basically calling it backwards, so he's not guessing the forward. He's saying, hey, in hindsight, it was a normal cycle that we should bottom in August.
Yeah, so he was wrong about the not calling the normal cycle part, right? And saying it was going to be either a left translated or a right translated. Do you agree with that? Do you think he's right there, or at least now with his statement?
I just don't see how we can go from where we are today of being so negative nobody being on X to rapidly getting an expansion over the course of the next 6 months. I see it further and further away now, and it sucks to say, but I just can't see us going from where we're at now, and then going full speed, and then having, everyone come back in February, and then it just being over in May. Like, I just can't see it anymore, right? So when I initially thought like May was going to be a top, I expected to have at least the beginning here in November, December, but it's not. So now, I'm pushing back as well. I think, potentially we could have a sideways and down quarter Q1 with maybe Q2 kind of being that pickup moment, maybe, or you know what I mean? So who knows?
So you don't fully agree with him because Q2 being the pickup moment, because he's calling.
Well, I think I need more information. I guess what I'm saying. I need Q1 to be bearish, and then I can potentially say I agree.
But I think even people like Bob Loukas that has a lot of experience in all these things, there's tons of people that got this year wrong. You know what I mean? And Benjamin Cohen's probably the closest to get most of everything right. But for him to kind of call this extended, either left translated or right translated, and then go back and say, okay, it was just a 4-year cycle and we topped in October 6th. So he didn't have either the right data or he was over, I guess like had too much confidence, right? In the current cycle or that we were in, right? Or with Bitcoin and stuff. And so for him to kind of go back on saying, okay, well, I was wrong. It's just a 4-year cycle. We're going through that again. I think that he's jumping the gun still on this.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. But I'm seeing more and more and more of this. Like, this isn't just Bob Loukas, right? This is all over the timeline right now that we are
You're
still
seeing
in
more and
four-year
more
cycle.
that really,
Well,
I'm
the
seeing
4-year
I'm seeing a
cycle
lot of that's no longer existing.
I
The
see that as
4-year
well. But now,
know?
I mean, the 4-year cycle, October 6th being the top, just kind of makes sense. It really does.
I mean, it makes sense for like a timeline perspective, I guess. But like, what doesn't make sense is we're missing a lot of ingredients for the 4-year cycle. And the ingredients that we're missing is there was no euphoria, in the cycle in 2025. There was no consistent euphoria. There was no retail that was up. Retail's always a part of the euphoria, by the way, because they are a part of what helps build it. And they just didn't come to the table. And so we had like a year full of institutions that were pretty happy, Bitcoin whales that were pretty happy, and then you have the rest of the space that at times felt like, especially I guess you could say more towards like the end of Q1 and beginning of Q2, had opportunities that retail, some of the crypto Twitter and stuff had some gains and stuff, and then the rest has been just really watching Bitcoin the entire time. Like, what's Bitcoin going to do? What's Bitcoin going to do? Like, oh, it's running. Awesome. What else is running? Not much. Okay. Solana is running kind of. You got ETH finally picked up. But then it wasn't your typical ingredients of a 4-year cycle bull top, is what I'm saying.
And I think that's because retail got burnt so bad. I think retail got burnt so bad in 2021 that they just went into stocks. So then they were able to buy Bitcoin as a stock. They were able to buy Ethereum as a stock, as an ETF, right? They were able to take leverage on NVIDIA and they made good money. They were able to take leverage on Apple. I just didn't think they needed to go risk on this cycle because a lot of them got burnt pretty bad. They were coming in buying Bitcoin at 50, 60, 70,000 and then sold at 16, 18, 19,000, right? A lot of the people, they were really scared at the bottom there. And I don't think they want to put themselves through that again. And that's why I think, 90% of retail is using leverage on these stocks. So I think, we burnt them. We didn't earn retail back.
Yeah, but you can say that about 2017 too. I mean, 2017 winter time, I experienced it and it went up very euphorically and it crashed pretty hard eventually, right? I mean, people from retail got wrecked big time in that cycle. I remember, like, it was kind of one of the reasons why I stepped away for, until the next cycle, right? And so this is not new. This is kind of how it worked, was that you would have the euphoric rise up with the native Web3 people and then retail together. And then when it's over, the small, people that have experience in Web3 got out before retail, and some retail was, quick enough to get out, and then some just held their bags over. And that's how you create new users in the bear market, but you lose some that just have a bad taste and they left, so I don't think that that's a new experience. I think we just, people are grasping for straws right now to figure out like what went wrong, what happened here. And I think Bob Loukas is probably a very, logical person that is very analytical and black and white in his brain. And he's like, it's simple. This is it. This is what happened, but I don't think it is that simple.
Well, I'm gonna push back a little bit on the 2017 thing, because I didn't even hear about Bitcoin in 2017, right? I didn't hear about anything crypto. I didn't learn about crypto until really 2020, and I didn't see it on my timeline. I didn't know anybody that was in crypto when it came to retail. You know what I mean? Now I had lived a very normy life, and I didn't, I didn't have anybody talk to me about Bitcoin.
Maybe maybe that's like how Philly was in 2017, but
that's what I mean. In 2021, it was everywhere. It was on Facebook, it was on Instagram, it was on TikTok.
Well, let me tell you,
it was just everywhere.
So my experience of 2017 was my aunt that I'd never talked to about it got into it. I heard about Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum on sports radio talk as I'm driving. It was a big mania actually in Dallas Fort Worth. And so, I got to imagine that maybe you just weren't in that, mindset at the time.
I mean, I was listening to sports talk all the time. I didn't hear anything on the sports talk channels.
But maybe you didn't pay attention to it, because like whenever I heard about it, like I had already known about it. And so when I heard about it on sports talk, I was like, okay, the mania is happening right now. But you got to
admit, the mania in 2021 was 1,000 times bigger.
Well, the mania in 2020 was 1,000 times bigger for everything.
Google, like you couldn't get away from it.
But it was big.
And then in 2017, I didn't hear anything.
In 2021, the mania was bigger for everything. Like the collectibles. Can you hear me?
Maybe it's me.
Yeah, collectibles and sports cards had a crazy run up. All stocks, tech stocks, the risk on stocks had a crazy run up. All these things had a really good run up in 2021. And so you have to remember, everybody got money and they were stuck at home. So they were looking for things to put their money in, so that's why 2021 was bigger than 2017 in terms of mania, is because it was a forced thing that everybody had to do. And like I said, collectible sports cards experienced their largest, inflation. Tech stocks experienced a huge, the risk on ones, huge attention. Everything happened that way in 2021. So,
but nothing got hit harder than crypto.
That's not true. That is not true. I was very much in. Yeah. And my card collection dropped about 80 to 90%.
99?
Yes.
Really?
Not 99.
I mean, Solana dropped 99% from the all-time
one
high.
coin. I had a couple cards that dropped 99%.
No, that's not true.
I had a couple cards.
99%. Litecoin down 90%.
I'm telling you that. Down. Everything took a big.
Who did you hold? Johnny Manziel?
No, well, yeah, actually, I did have a Johnny Manziel rookie card that I got for really cheap, and it was a Topps, like what was it called, the rookie signed autos, the thick cards. Yeah. I got it for cheap because at that point he was kind of getting pushed out. But no, like Tom Brady, first year Prism, green, or refractors that were PSA 10s.
99%.
No, those dropped about 70%. Cards that dropped more like 99% were more like rookies that were kind of okay. Yeah. And then, they jumped up big time because they had potential during that period, and then dropped down about, between 90, 95% or whatever. But people lost huge, in their collections because everything drove up so much. Crypto was a little bit of a different story because there was a lot of obvious crime that was in the headlines. And so, it got, spit on a bit harder just because, it kind of deserved it, right? Yeah. There was a lot of crime happening. People lost money out of stealing versus, value going down.
Right? Retail got burned hard with Terra Luna, USD1. Like, you know what I mean? Like normies that watching Wendy O's channel were investing in Celsius, right? Like putting their money in Celsius. Like it was truly bad for retail layer cycle. But let's move on here. Strategy increased its USD reserve by 2.19 billion, but no new Bitcoin buys last week. Sailor posted green dots, dots beget orange dots. Is Sailor worried here? Is Sailor stacking cash and not Bitcoin for the first time we've ever seen? Is he worried about potential bear market happening? Because this isn't his first rodeo. This is his second now.
Yeah. I mean, that's not a great sign, you know. I'm
Yeah.
sure he's going to talk on that because people are going to ask him questions about it. They have him on the on their shows and stuff like that. So I think he's probably got to address it just because I mean, he knows what he signed up for, right? And what he signed up for was he's the face for Bitcoin. And so when you do something that is in the opposite of what you were doing for so long, people are going to question it. But you know, we'll see what his response is.
Yeah. Stan says, can crypto plateau? Have we reached the forever moment? What does he mean here? Plateau.
I think he's saying that like forever top. You know, like can it just like I don't know, it can't, I don't think, because there will always be, you know, you got to think about like market sentiment different cycles, right? Like different times, right? So when things are very liquid, people are willing to put more in risk on stuff. We're just not in that. You know, that's plain and simple. And you can say people are taking leverage in retail. Well, they're taking leverage on stuff that they feel like is safe. You know, the leverage part isn't safe necessarily from a concept perspective, but the stock itself or the asset itself is safer, right? If they're doing it with Nvidia or they're doing it with, you know, S&P or whatever they're trading, it's safer than if they were to do it in a new asset class like crypto.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely risk on when it comes to leverage, but at the same time, yeah, the assets that they're getting into are I mean, some stock guys though are, you know, talking about, you know, that they're over leveraged, right? Like, you know, a lot of this stuff is trading 50 times earnings and stuff like that. So that's always a thing as well. So I mean, you know, people are saying that they're overvalued. But last thing before we get into our guest is Tom Lee's BitMine just bought 40 million worth of ETH. So as Sailor's buying dollars, Tom Lee is actually using those dollars to buy more ETH. 40 million is a very small buy for him. He's usually between 300 and 400 million each week. But so the $40 million buy, he's still out there. He's still buying.
Yeah, he's still buying, but he's learning really quickly kind of the responsibility in his mind, at least, that he has now, right? Because now he's the face of Ethereum in a sense, right? Yeah. So, you know, we saw some of these pullbacks, by the way, happen a month and a half ago, I think 2 months ago. Both Sailor and Tom Lee, they were still buying, but they were much smaller than what they were buying before. You know, with Tom Lee, I feel like he's kind of gotten in a situation to where he's, first of all, on the shows way more than Sailor. Secondly, like, you know, I feel like he's constantly asked about, you know, projections and forecasts, and he almost has to put something out there. And so he's just keeps pushing it back now, saying January is where he thinks that, and he did reference Bitcoin, not Ethereum specifically. He said January is where he thinks that, you know, we could go 130, 150K for Bitcoin. But what happens if he gets that wrong, right? You know, it's something that I think Tom Lee was able to hang his hat on before, was Bitcoin's going to cross 100K, was his like infamous words, right? Now, if he gets this wrong again, do people lose a little bit of faith in kind of his stance and projections and stuff?
Well, someone from his team did. I'm going to come out with something a little bit later, but someone from his team put out an article saying ETH could hit 18 or 2,000 in the next 3 to 6 months. I'm sorry, 1,800 to 2,000. So we'll see with that. But let's get to our guest here. So we're lucky enough to have another podcast join the show. We got Digital Gold Talk. I actually joined them on Saturday. It was a blast. Now he's going to come in and hang out with us for a little bit. So without further ado, let's bring in Digital Gold Talk. What's up, bud?
How you guys doing?
Doing well. How are you, man?
Oh, really well, man. Really, really well. I think I chose landscape and I was supposed to choose portrait mode. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it looks right, doesn't it?
Does it look right? Okay, good,
Yeah.
good. Don't want to screw up your podcast. Hey, man, yeah. So you guys are talking about Bitcoin prices for January, huh?
Yeah, well, just kind of going off of a little bit of the speculation that Tom Lee has put out there, you know, saying that he can see, you know, 130 to 150 in January, but I think that some of these projections have been pretty off, including my own, by the way. This entire year has been really hard to predict. But I'd love to kind of introduce you to our audience, right? So you
Sure.
are the founder of Digital Gold Talk, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe if you wouldn't mind, maybe giving a little bit of background, your history until getting up until Digital Gold Talk to our audience, to get them to learn about you a little bit, if you don't mind.
Sure. So I was born in Lansing, Michigan back in 1967. No, I won't go that far back. So yeah, I've been in crypto for a long time. My big thing was in 2017. I was coming out of a space of fundraising and angel investing and that type of thing, and I couldn't understand why these were not illegal coin offerings. These initial coin offerings, why weren't they? Because they were taking money, pooling money from a group of individuals so a management team could create a profit. And that's literally the definition of a security, the Howey test, And so I, instead of really getting into crypto for speculative reasons, I got into it for legal reasons. And I started working with their attorneys for, at the time it was, 20 of the top 25 coins. I was talking with pretty much everybody except the Bitcoin crowd. And I wanted to work with their lawyers. So Jed McCaleb and the guys, Charles Hoskinson and the guys that started Ethereum, all but Vitalik, but Shadan Gorn was an early investor. There was Jacob Farber, who was the lawyer of their ICO. There was Amir Chetrit, and some names in the background a lot of people don't know. But across these coins, Ryan Taylor of Dash, all of these people, I started talking to their lawyers. And I worked with 48 lawyers across 12 law firms, including ending up with the original 1937 law firm, Hughes, Hubbard & Reed, and with, which is pretty much entirely former SEC and CFTC and U.S. attorneys and that type. And Roel Campos, who ended up being Elon's lawyer in 2018, I actually gave him the idea for the settlement for Elon, who had been sued for $2 billion. Tesla was sued for $2 billion on a Friday, said he couldn't be chairman or CEO. I talked to Roel on Sunday, suggested 20 million. He stays on as chairman and CEO. He steps down for 1 year. And that was the settlement 24 hours later. But the 10,000 hours of work that I put in with these 48 lawyers, I wrote a document with 8 of the attorneys at Hughes, Hubbard & Reed, 7 rather of them, including Roel. And that was hand walked in under Roel's signature to then former, so he's former Jay Clayton, former SEC chair. And 20 days later, Bitcoin was called a commodity. And if it wasn't off my work, then it was an identical, literally identical reasoning from my work. And so I've been in the space for a bit. Now I'm putting together a fund. There'll be 3 funds if the first one is successful. We're raising $1 billion across 55 states and territories. Money managers, not family offices or wealthy people, but the money that manage those for the boomers and Gen Xers. And we're looking at 16, it could be more, but right now it's 16 cryptocurrencies that we believe are the future, and they're OG from Digibyte, which was 2014, to Multiverse X and Near and Internet Computer. And so ultimately a typical fund is called 2 and 20. You get 2% over 10 years, 20% and 20% of profits. We'll be putting the 20% into these coins, meaning that we'll have a system by where builders, creators can come and apply for grants. And if we like what they're doing, we'll give them that part of that 200 million of that first billion. The other 800 million will be locked up forever and tokenized. And Gene Hoffman will help us work. That's Bram Cohen and Gene from Chia. They'll help us tokenize that, and it'll run on their platform where after a year and a day, people can trade that. That's going to be for accredited investors. And I'm also working with Senator Mark Finchem in Arizona, and we're crafting legislation about what is legal tender. And it'll be based off my digital gold standard benchmark, which sets a valuation based on adoption, transaction value, developer ecosystem, and network power score. And so I've kind of got my fingers in a lot of it, but it's mainly just to try and understand, on one other accreditation law that matters is, why can you walk into a casino and put your life savings up, but God forbid you invest in a startup, you might lose it. So we're trying to change accreditation laws state by state the way you did marijuana. So that's kind of my background.
Yeah, I mean that's amazing. I feel like you were in the trenches, but a different type of trenches than
A
what.
different
You know,
trench.
yeah,
Sure.
there you go.
Right.
A different, like, but an important one, right? You know, just basically before even having something like the Clarity Act, you were researching and seeing like what needs to happen, this and that and the other. So I assume you have a law background. Is that correct?
No, but the interesting thing is that it's sort of this idea that, a lawyer goes into a field and even if they're in one industry, specifically divorce law or whatever it is, they tend to know things kind of, a mile wide and an inch deep, if you will, where I was specifically focused on one thing and I went an inch wide and a mile deep. So when I got to the first law firms, you can imagine a hub and spoke, and I was one spoke coming in and I was learning. And the second one I was learning, and the third one I was learning. But by the fourth one, I was teaching. And by the time you got all the way around here, you can imagine I'm sitting around this DC law firm. I'm at the head of the table for 2 days. I paid 150 grand for this, by the way, for 2 days total.
Wow.
But on my left, I've got a lawyer, and then I've got Rowell and another lawyer, and then I've got another lawyer coming in from New York, then another lawyer, and another lawyer here who wrote a lot of the Jobs Act. And we're sitting here, and they're testing me, and I'm citing laws, and I'm saying this. And one would say, well, John, no, I don't think so. And then someone else would be like, nope, John's right. And Roll would say, no, I'm not sure about that, John. Somebody like, nope, John's right. And so I checkmated these guys. And these were all former SEC commissioners and chairs, CFTC commissioners and chairs. And so if you spend 10,000 hours on one thing, you become really, really good at it. And so at the time, I was saying that I was the foremost expert on cryptocurrency compliance and no law background. In fact, I dropped out of high school in my 11th grade year and hitchhiked across the country taking acid. So,
what an interesting. You should have started with that. No, I'm just kidding.
It would have set the stage wrong.
True. I guess that was a perfect plug in for that, though. But I love your background in the legal aspect of everything because from like people like Shizzy and myself, we've been in the space as Web3 natives for quite some time, and we've experienced it from a user perspective. I'm curious about what you think is about to happen, because there's a lot of Web3 natives that are on crypto Twitter or this and that and the other that are trying to figure out this year, and we feel like something was off. But I feel like a lot of it has to do with prepping for Clarity Act infrastructure. How do you see the crypto space changing in 2026 and being different, if different at all?
Interesting. So first of all, if you take a look from the legal perspective and compliance perspective, one of the biggest things that happened was the overturning of Chevron by the Supreme Court. Chevron, for those that don't know, essentially allowed state agencies to interpret the law, right? And so as a result of that, you had a very overambitious SEC who was suing Ripple, and they were suing MetaMask, Joe Lubin's company, and all these lawsuits were dropped within a month of the overturning of Chevron, which said, no, you can't interpret the law. If you're not clear about it, go back to Congress. And if it's not covered by Congress, Congress can pass new laws. But you can't interpret the law and attack people and fine people by your understanding of what it might mean. And so that was major. The other thing is Gary Gensler really, who's surprised? He was the campaign finance chairman for Hillary Clinton's campaign. So from the go, the guy's dirty, but like this guy sued everybody. He wouldn't give any clarity about anything. He was horrible. Now we have an SEC chair who is saying he's pro-crypto. The Treasury Secretary, pro-crypto. The Trump administration, pro-crypto. None of these things existed during these last bull runs. It was all people being attacked and shut down and being threatened with jail and all of these things. So now we have a very, very pro-administration we did not have before. We have clarity coming, if you will. Federal Reserve banks, everybody are making it so that you can accept crypto, you can custody crypto. So we're in the most pro-custody or pro-crypto landscape we've ever seen. Now, in my opinion, Bitcoin needs to earn it like everyone else. And so the standard that we set up was based off of Bitcoin's numbers in 2024, which said and not that we now peg everything to Bitcoin, because we have to decouple. And I'm thinking this is the year for that. But I mean, if Bitcoin goes down, all crypto goes down. BlackRock controls Bitcoin, you could say, and their banks. Therefore, BlackRock controls all crypto. That's got to end. And that's something that the senators and I across all the states, we'll be adding 220 senators and House members to our Digital Gold Foundation, to the 6 that are on the page now. But it is so pro-crypto right now. But Bitcoin itself, we think it's worth about 117,000. If it had 80 million users and that's 70% of its weighting, and 6 billion transactions, 5% of its weighting, and 13.5 trillion in transaction value, 5% of its weighting, a developer ecosystem of 905, 5% of its weighting, and it would take 18.2 billion to 51% attack it for a minute if you could, but you can't. 15% of its weighting. Then for us to see it going to 200,000, it needs to double those metrics. If it's going to go to 1 million, it needs 800 million users. You see, it doesn't just get to go because FOMO FUD chart go up, right? Bullshit, right? But that said, those aren't the metrics that are being used to judge today. And you remember that the last time that the greed fear index was this low, or, fear this high, was 14%. Right now, I think we got to around 20, and we might be at 24 now. But what happened was the stimulus checks. $1,400 came out. People couldn't leave their home to spend it, obviously, but they could spend it on Amazon and get packages delivered, and the market roared. There is a talk of a $2,000 tariff stimulus check. We're also going into midterms where the Republicans do not want to lose the House and Senate. And, to be fair, I'm a Republican, right? Okay, got the elephant. And I managed campaigns for 4 years for 155 senators and House members across 355 elections and re-elections. We won 97% of, which is why they're still my friends. But they're going to do anything they can to keep the Congress Republican, because if not, we'll have all these absolutely fictitious Russia impeachment bullshit that'll just slow down the cogs. So we're going to win the midterms. How are we going to do that? Well, we need a good economy. We need the crypto community to be very vibrant and happy, and more money flowing into that economy. But those $2,000 stimulus checks would be a good way just before the midterms in November to keep. And the Democrats are stuck, because if they say no to stimulus checks, they look evil. And if they say no to the marijuana laws that Trump's about to overturn, or rather declassify it down to like Tylenol with codeine, kind of a misdemeanor thing. They will do those things, and they will get votes for those things. And Democrats cannot vote against marijuana, and they cannot vote against stimulus. So I see Bitcoin going to about 155, 160, and I can give you my reasons why.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of what you said has a lot of truth to it. My question is, and I think there's a lot of people on crypto Twitter is was 2025, did they kind of just say, okay, we're going to use 2025 to prep for all this for 2026, and it's okay Absolutely. If they're not happy? Because I'll tell you, crypto Twitter is not happy.
Oh, it's very sad.
Yeah, and the expectation of a crypto friendly administration was very let down, I think, this entire year. Now, I did think about that. I said, the Trump and the current administration has a lot to get through in 2025. They're going to have a ton of pushback here, there, and the other. If he's going to push the tariff stuff, that's going to be a thing. And so the first year could be almost like a wash, to where it's like, we're not going to get the benefits that we thought for a pro crypto administration. I'm curious of your opinion on that.
Right. So I believe that the markets are manipulated by BlackRock and their ilk. And we're talking, BlackRock owns probably 20% of each of the major banks, which means that they have 20% of the board seats, and they exert incredible control. Larry Fink and his group. They are all very much using Bitcoin. And remember, this is the Federal Reserve then, really. I mean, we're really talking the same people are in the same boat that run the Federal Reserve, which is as federal as Federal Express. It's a private bank. And so what they are doing, I believe, is offloading their clients from the fiat system to crypto, to Bitcoin specifically. But in order to keep Bitcoin going higher, they have to crush all other coins that are better than Bitcoin. And so they have cheerleaders like Saylor saying, you know, other coin? There is no other coin. There's only Bitcoin and shit coins. Right. And if they don't keep that going through all the media outlets that they control, then money would flow into the other crypto assets. Now, I do think that the day of really great times for any shit coin out there, any meme coin, any, coin that doesn't really have a purpose, like SNEC. I mean, it's a meme coin, and it was worth $1 billion, and now it's worth 150, and now it's worth 75 million. It keeps going down. Those are hype coins. But when we look at real, 15-second block time digibyte with 5 different types of proof of work with the DigiDollar and DigiID and DigiShield, they dwarf Bitcoin and have since 2014. But Bitcoin controlled Kraken. Jesse Powell's a Bitcoin, he's a Bitcoin guy. The Winklevi are Bitcoin guys at Kraken, or Gemini rather. Brian Armstrong is a Bitcoin guy over there at Coinbase. So they wouldn't let him on, and still haven't. And the lawmakers that are looking at this, these people that guard the on-ramps. But look at Near Protocol, and look at Internet Computer, and look at Multiverse X, which is going to be the PayPal of this whole system with X money. And look at Chia with Bram Cohen, who was the inventor of decentralized computing almost, with 167 million downloads of BitTorrent. Or Gene Hoffman, who at 24 sold eMusic for 75 million to Universal because they couldn't compete in his indie space after snubbing him 3 years earlier. And the guts of his MP3 player became the first iPod. These are brilliant guys. You even look at eCash and Ravencoin, and I'm sorry anybody out there, Dash, or anybody that I'm not mentioning, but these are far better coins. But if BlackRock can run down Bitcoin, they can buy them and then run them back up and own them because they got behind in this. I will say this: it's all manipulated right now. It was a head and shoulders top. I called a 76,500 to 72 on a bad day, a low. That would be it. That wouldn't go any lower. Just chartist would say this. But there was a rotation in December for tax reasons for everybody. They were hitting us on Sundays in a thinly traded market during holidays, so it was easy to manipulate the price down. But if you're in Bitcoin, it doesn't mean they sold real Bitcoin. They might have sold a little, but they got all their clients in at 100 grand plus. So they probably didn't sell any Bitcoin. They probably bought puts on their ETF, which they say is their most profitable asset at BlackRock. And they drive the price down of everything, and they load the boat because they know stimulus checks and good times are happening in 26. So would you rather have your clients in Bitcoin now at 127, about to go to 155, or drive the price down artificially to 80 and now load the boats even more? And now when it goes to 155, you doubled your clients' money in the first 2 quarters of the year. So for the poop coins out there, I don't really follow them, and we'll see what they do. But for the coins like Near and ICP and these amazing coins I mentioned, load the boats. I'm not a financial advisor. This isn't financial advice. But load the boats, because they are going to drive all of those things higher when they drive Bitcoin higher. And Bitcoin is going higher. Michael Saylor even put out something about orange dots happen before green dots, he said, in the last 8 hours or whatever. And he always signals because he knows. And so it's all manipulated, and it's all to get the price low before they take it higher. Tom Lee is right.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, Tom Lee is someone who's buying Ethereum, right? So he might. I mean, if you are correct, and they're pushing Bitcoin down, and you're seeing Ethereum, go 28, 27, and then immediately get bought back up to 3,000. I mean, you could be right. They, that's something that I thought about, early this year was, every time they take Bitcoin down, Ethereum drops 10% more. And then you're seeing Ethereum kind of come back to where it was. And
but they love Ethereum. They love
yeah,
Ethereum.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, let's face it. It was absolutely an illegal public offering. They took in millions of dollars so the team could build something so that this crowd could have a profit. But then they're like, oh, but wait, if you become decentralized in a short enough period of time, then you really didn't break the law up front.
Yeah.
What the fuck does that mean?
I felt they definitely picked a winner.
It's like, well, if you robbed the bank, but in a certain amount of time you made money off that money and paid back the bank, you didn't really rob the bank.
Yeah. Well, wasn't the debate kind of, or the topic of conversation that, the regulators basically picked Ethereum over XRP at that point because, they kind of turned their face when the ICO happened, but went hardcore in on XRP for, it's like, what the heck, right? So
look at the funds that Clayton went and worked for immediately after leaving the chairman post, and they were heavily into Ethereum. So they couldn't have XRP win.
Yeah,
they had to drive it down. So yeah, it's absolute manipulation and bullshit.
Yeah, and I mean that's not new either. That happens in TradFi as well. But it got to a point to where it's like very subtle or like behind the curtain. Is that how you think crypto ends up being?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you saw, but the guy that started the Satoshi Roundtable was in Dubai, and I have it posted. I shared his post on my feed, and he essentially says, "Guys, I was in TradFi. I started as a broker." Making 1,000 calls. Hello, what are you doing with your money? Would you like to invest it? All the way up to doing billion-dollar deals with teams and $100 million deals with teams in TradFi. And then he saw crypto as the way out. And he said at this last, summit in Abu Dhabi, it's all bankers. The bankers have already taken it over. It's over. For Bitcoin, it's over. There is no... and is Bitcoin really decentralized when a core team, which is really, and miners that are really controlled again by BlackRock, is it really decentralized? And is it really money? No, it fails in all parts, but crypto has absolutely become a banker's playground. It is no longer the decentralized dream when you're looking at Bitcoin. And so, yeah, it's an insider's game now. Just like the GameStop naked shorting. It's completely manipulated and fraud behind the scenes. And it's kabuki theater.
Yeah, Stan says, has the manipulation increased so much that prediction tools are dead? What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I really believe in prediction tools because it tends to be what the market overall, they were saying Trump was going to win the election. And I was like, impossible for us to win because they stole all of the Secretary of State's, AGs, and governor's offices in all of the swing states in 22. So I said, no chance. But prediction markets got me there, and I'm not looking back. I'm saying, man, what do the prediction markets say, by the way? Yagobi right now? What are they saying?
Yeah, well, the thing about predictions markets, I think, so we were in that same boat. We were watching the election at the same time as you, and I think the manipulation with predictions markets happens like way out. And as you get close, that starts to get narrowed in on, okay, we can, once it passes like 85% with 2 days left, you can pretty much slam dunk that. That's what we've noticed, at least with the Fed and stuff like that, those decisions.
Yeah. Well, I have to say that I believe that it's all manipulated. I believe then the prediction markets could be manipulated too. Why not?
Yeah, for sure.
What are the prediction markets saying right now?
Well, they're basically saying Bitcoin's not getting over 100K so far, and then to end this year.
100K?
This year, in the next the next 8 days. So I don't really know. It's a whole bunch of predictions. That's actually a really good question, honestly. I don't know why I haven't looked at that recently. Why I look into this? Can you let our audience know what is Digital Gold Talk? When do you go live? And maybe get some of our audience to come follow you.
Man, that'd be amazing. Thank you. Yeah, if you guys come over to X, that's the only place we are. We don't stream anywhere else, although that might change after talking with Shizzy on the last podcast. But I'm exclusively on X at Digital Gold Talk. Like Bitcoin Talk was the original forum for Bitcoin. So we're Digital Gold Talk. Our goal is, by the way, that the only way we can break away from this Bitcoin goes down, everything goes down, is we have to look at it as a manipulated space the same way Roaring Kitty did with GameStop. You know, it was being artificially driven into the ground. People that, you know, they'd already ruined Toys R Us. There was AMC theaters, but he noticed that they had created paper shares to drive it into the earth. There's rumor that they did this in 17 and 21 with Ethereum contracts. People have shown me really damning evidence that it got away from the bankers, and so they created paper shares on Ethereum and sold them short and just drove everything into the earth where they could collect things up that they had missed. And they did it again in 21. I don't know if that's true or not, but it wouldn't surprise me. But at Digital Gold Talk, we want to become the Wall Street Bets. Remember, they got to 15 million people, and they made Citadel and the big bankers backed by BlackRock lose tens of billions of dollars. They've never recovered. It looks like it because there were stock splits. No. They never got out. Those paper shares are still shorted. Okay, so what we're really looking at here is we're looking at how do we put together a group? Now, I did a calculation. You can see my math that we need to grow at like 2.3% daily. Right now, we're growing at about 0.5 to 1% daily. But if we could grow, I had 30 users and 12 followers. Now I have 3,500. A month or so ago, I had 2,500. We're growing at a speed that if we stay where we are, we'll have 1 million followers in a year. And almost all of my followers, shout out to you guys, they repost my stuff. So I'm getting millions of impressions, and my videos, my live streams. I mean, even during the holidays, we did almost 1,000 the other day, but typically they're 3,000 to 5,000 live and can be up to 15 or 24,000 in the week following of real viewers, no bots, no promos. Now, I'm not running any advertisements on X. But it's because this message of fundamentals and formula over FOMO and FUD matters. If we can drive 2.3%, we'd have 15 million followers instead of 1 million followers in a year. And if we have 15 million followers, well, my God, I do almost a 1-for-1 average of 35 to 3,500 views. We could do 15 million live views. If we can get that kind of control of the market, then when these assholes just drive our coin into the coins, the good coins into the ground, just keep diamond handing them and buying them. Fuck them. And if they want to short them, if they can, fuck them. Drive it out and squeeze them out. But if they just want to sell theirs short, they're not even, sell theirs cheap, rather, they're not shorting it, naked shorting, whatever, if that is even possible with smart contracts, we will just buy their coins. They want to sell them to us cheap, fine, fuck you, buy it, sell them to us. And if we get 15 million people that are buying these awesome coins and holding them, diamond handing them, just like they did with GameStop, I think we can squeeze those fuckers right out of the market, and we'll no longer care what Bitcoin does because everyone will have left for better coins, safe harbor, whatever you want to call it. That's where I want to go with Digital Gold Talk, and you guys can help me by joining at Digital Gold Talk, following it, and then sharing that with your friends, reading the Digital Gold Standard Benchmark on. My book is coming out, by the way. The Fair Value Investor will be out January 1st at Amazon and Google and Barnes and Noble. And I'm trying to get an agent that we can get it into all bookstores. And there it is right there at the top, that pinned post. You'll be able to read the book. But if you get a digital copy of it, you can copy. How do I find adoption? Plug it in to Grok or ChatGPT, and you'll get an adoption number. And do them all separately like that, as I teach you in the book, or else Grok gets lazy. And you can look at any layer one and understand what its true intrinsic value is. So that would be great. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And digitalgoldtalk.com, you can see all past podcasts too.
Yeah. I mean, I love what you guys are about. I love the energy too. And it's kind of like, hey, we might seem like the little guy, but if we get together, we're not so little. And I absolutely hated what Citadel did. First of all, huge conflict of interest with Robinhood, the way that, the market making, the, brokerages, all that stuff, right? So bad. But it's like the fact that everybody is so welcoming, and look, I've been a part of that group too, that TradFi is integrating with us because it seems like more capital and stuff. You have to remember they're happy that they can paper trade Bitcoin now, because like it's not on chain, right? So there's things that I think we got to be really resilient about, and call it out as much as possible. And it seems like that's what you guys are about.
Absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, you remember Robinhood when it was going so high, you couldn't buy it. You could only sell it. What's amazing to me is that we get hauled in front of Congress, we being the Wall Street Bets crowd, essentially. Keith Gill gets hauled in front of Congress, and you've got this dumb as a brick Maxine Waters, who of course was in charge of the campaign, or rather the finance committee for the House. And I mean, literally, she's as dumb as a brick. And this woman, instead of grilling Citadel in these, she grills Keith Gill. What were you doing? What's your background? Yeah. He literally was saying these guys are all fraud, and Citadel's sitting there going, we didn't do anything. Robin's going, we didn't do anything. And then that was it. No fines, no corruption charges, because they're all in on the graph. So, we want to become Wall Street Bets at Digital Gold Talk. We want to become Wall Street Bets because if you guys ever seen that picture of many fish that are in the form of a shark swimming through the ocean? Yeah, right. If you're going to compete with the sharks, we got to come together and be a bigger shark.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I love that analogy. A bunch of little fish, but it's all in the shape of one giant shark. That's amazing. But I know you do have a hard stop here.
I was going to say, guys, we went over it, and I don't want to take any more of your time. Yagobi, I am following you. I had to go look. I was like, am I following him? We're following each other, bro. Right on.
Nice.
But by the way, you guys, Shizzy might have told you, we're going to be doing he showed me this. What was it called? That incredible
Agent Hustle.
Agent Hustle is amazing, right?
Yeah.
So he turned me on to Agent Hustle, and specifically the news feed. And so Shizzy and I, after Christmas, so starting next Monday in the afternoons, are going to be doing a news recap. You guys will be streaming to your audience. I'll be streaming to mine. Yagobi, I sure would hope that you would join us on that.
Yeah, for sure.
Daily. We're going to go right down the list of news and do a news recap for people driving home. So thank you for having me on. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. And for our Jewish friends, happy Hanukkah and happy Kwanzaa. Don't want to leave anybody out, but thank you guys. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. And we'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon, guys. Bye now.
See you, buddy. Well, absolutely awesome. Great. It was great to meet him on Saturday. Like, it was so random too. I just went into his stream and he sent me a message. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll come on. And then, we definitely hit it off. And I definitely like his views on a lot of things. Some of them are a lot different than mine, which is always nice. It's always a good conversation and not everyone agrees, right? That's kind of our power here on OnChain Revolution. It's like, we're not going to sit here and just, give you the same message over and over. We like opinions, and we like to, battle those opinions back and forth to make sure that we're both correct. And that's something that we love to hear. And that's what I got from him as well. So that was really cool. But I got a lot more stuff to jump into if you're cool with that.
Yeah. I was going to just say that, I feel like I align with a lot of the stuff that he from my side of it, right? But, I think that is what makes the show great, though, having different perspectives, for sure.
100%. Are you ready for the crypto price action, or should we just wait?
Yeah, we can jump into that.
Let's do it.
We can jump into that. Not much has changed from it, though. I'll tell you that. But before we do get into that, guys, remember on the YouTube side, smash that like for us, subscribe to the channel, all those great things. We just started streaming on Facebook today. We're trying to be on every platform. So we appreciate your support. Make sure you sub, you hit the likes, X as well, share the space. If you want to support the show, you can trade the OCRM token. It's just on the pump stream side of things. So shout out to all you guys there. But let's get into some price action here. I'm gonna remove your screen there and jump into the hour chart for Bitcoin. Let's take a look here, guys. It doesn't look too much different, like I said, from really this past week and a half, right? We've just been ranging between 90K and all the way down to 84-ish range, right? But we did have a rise back up over the weekend, and we're kind of sitting here at 89,370, right? So it does look like we're about to come out of this buy pressure session on the MACD. So our momentum is officially switching. You can see the blue line crossing over that orange slow line there, and the stochastic RSI as well just crossed underneath that 20-point marker there, right? So, you know, what does that mean? That means we're probably going to get some downtrend here, right? But again, we just been ranging, right? We've been ranging back and forth, and it's unfortunate. I was hoping for some sort of Santa rally, but we are so close now that I think we can kind of write that off, right? We got about 2 days left before that's happening, and hey, I guess the very last moment, you know, Santa could come in and send Bitcoin to pass 100K, but it's not probable, I should say, right? But let's take a look here at the support and resistance of the hour chart for Bitcoin. And we are going back to this 7 a.m. Eastern time is where we're starting, right? And so you can see we are losing momentum on the upside, right? But it's not too bad. It's just volume's very low here, right? So if we do get some sell orders to push down, when we get down below 89,150, though, it does get a little bit more lopsided, but that's still not too bad. So I'm not too worried. It doesn't seem like we're going to go into a super strong sell pressure session. So this is something just to kind of keep our eye on. Maybe we get to, you know, mid 88, low 88K for the day, but it doesn't seem like it's wanting to rush down there. And, you know, we can see that first MACD candle too. It's pretty small. We'll see if we get more aggressive. Of course, if that happens, then you know, perspectives can change. But as of right now, I think we're just kind of rotating right back. This pendulum swinging back to a sell pressure session. Maybe we see like 88.5, 88K, maybe even dip down to 87. But again, it's just been swinging back and forth. Let's take a look at the 4 hour. 4 hour has extended. It did extend the buy pressure session here. It looks like it's starting to break down. So, you know, depending on how aggressive that sell pressure session on the previous chart gets, will determine if we close out of this or if we have a continued extension of the buy pressure session here. You know, we've extended it, you know, once, twice already. So, you know, if I had to guess at it, I would say we'd probably close out of this, go into a sell pressure session. But I will wait until we see what happens on that shorter time frame, right? If we can hang around upper 88s, you know, 89, maybe even bounce back to 90, then maybe we do get an extension here on the 4 hour chart. It is Christmas week, so I expect kind of slow, you know, volume not being super aggressive, but we shall see. But that's the 4 hour for you guys. Let's take a look at the daily. Daily did have an extension here. We did pop up. So this makes me think maybe, you know, maybe if we do kind of survive 88, 89, 90, we could extend this out. So not too bad scenario, but not too great either. Like, you know, we're just kind of, let's see how this holiday week plays out, because it does seem like it's going to be a bit sideways. And that's the topic of today, right? Is it going to be a big week or more chop? And it seems like we're getting more chop this week. Let's take a look at Ethereum really quick on these time frames really fast before we jump into the crypto bubbles, right? You can see right now Ethereum sitting above 3,000. That's definitely a good thing. You know, it's been that threshold that hasn't really held, though. It's constantly, we're barely over it. We're barely back below it. So I think we're getting to a point where $3,000 doesn't matter as much anymore, right? If we're above it or below it. And you can see the sell pressure session just getting started. It's very weak, though, on the hour chart for ETH. And then you can take a look at the 4 hour, same scenario as Bitcoin wants to, it seems like it wants to close out here. And I bet you we had an extension on the daily chart. Not really. We didn't really get it like we did for Bitcoin, right? There's one tiny little green candle there on Ethereum's daily chart. And so, you know, of course, that changes if Bitcoin decides it wants to go back above 90K. Maybe we go to 92, 93, 94. This will definitely break back out. We'll stay above 3K for Ethereum. But as of right now, it doesn't seem like it wants to go aggressively one way or the other. So we'll probably see more chop. Taking a look at the crypto bubbles in the top 100. By the way, we have a new coin that entered the top 100. It's Merle. You're not used to seeing Merlin in the top 100 for crypto bubbles, but again, congratulations to Jeff and his team.
Get
Love
used
to
to
see
it, bro.
Yeah, it is great. It's up 1.5%. Alts look pretty decent today. You see this Bitcoin is crazy too. It's been like very volatile to the upside for the most part. It's up 35% here. You see Mix too, man. Mix coin is one of those coins that's constantly in a 10 and above, like green trend. It's weird. Like it's definitely not mainstream, but it is a perps dex, right? So maybe do we need to look into this? Maybe people are farming it. Maybe people are, trying to, get in as like they're getting more popularity, because perps dexes are pretty popular once they get kind of thrown into the spotlight. Some other notables here: Curve Finance up 9%, Near Protocol, we're talking about them with John, up 4.5% here, HBAR up 3%, CC pulling back 17%, Aave. I wonder if there was some bad news here for Aave pulling back 13%. That was interesting. And then you see Rain pulling back 5%, and then Monero pulling back 2.2% there. Let's take a look at the top 200. You see in the top 200, Pippin, meme coin, AI-based kind of meme coin or themed meme coin, pulling back 21%. No shocker there. It did run really strong, almost $500 million market cap. Now it's sitting at 335. Still not bad though. Fart coin in the green. Does this mean that we're gonna have a trenches kind of revival? Let's hope so, right? It is in the green though, sitting at $300 million market cap. It's up 3.6% there. FTN up 118%. Fast token, right? That is definitely extreme there. You see the H token up 24.5%. Jasmine up 7% there. Syrup up 4% from Pancake Swap, or no, Maple, I should say. Maple Finance, and some stuff that pulled back was the Pulse ecosystem stuff. You see Pulse X down 5%, and then Pulse, I guess this is a chain token, down 3.5%, and you got Hex down 5.1%. So I wonder if there was something that happened with Richard Hot. But that is Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the alts for you guys. Hopefully that helps you on this for starting off this holiday week.
Yeah, 100%. And real quick, you hit on something in the beginning of that with Merlin, and just kind of want to show that real quick. So Merlin is officially in the top 100, like Yagobi said, but it is in the top 85, right? This is one of the strongest tokens of the last 6 months. There has been really nothing as strong as Merlin chain in the last 6 months. And, we are very proud of that, being partnered with Jeff. And it's really cool that we were right. All the fun that so many people gave us for partnering with them and being friends with Jeff is now it's now working itself together here, because Merlin chain and the Merl token are legitimate assets now. They're gonna potentially be on Coinbase. Right now we have the perps. We get the coin. I don't know, but when it comes to perps, 99% of the tokens that are on the perps usually are on Coinbase there as well. So if that comes, Coinbase spot, yeah. So we'll see if that comes. And on top of that, just being there, sitting there right now, it is a front of artificial intelligence, Dash, Tezos, Injective, Aerodrome, right? Stacks. It has beat Stacks now for the first time above Stacks.
I wonder,
number one Bitcoin.
That's a bit. I mean, yesterday it was only one above. Now you're looking at 10, 11.
Yeah.
So that's gotta, man, you gotta be happy. It's like vindication too. When we first started bringing founders on our show, one of the things that we would say constantly is, we like projects, but we really want to believe in founders, right? And we knew that instantly when we met Jeff. It wasn't even for any project that he's associated with now necessarily, only associated because that's what he started off with in the Bitcoin ecosystem with the recursive verse, which was so like innovative and like a passion project that he was in, right? And so we were like, we gotta learn from this guy. We gotta keep talking to this guy, and it is the best performing asset coming out of the ordinals era, and you can't deny it. And I love saying that.
You can say, it's been the biggest asset in mainstream crypto, right? There's been nothing that's really outperformed it besides maybe like Hyperliquid and Aster, right? Like there really hasn't been. It's pretty insane to watch this thing kind of go for where at 7 cents in June to being almost 42 cents today. I mean, that's absolutely insane. That's insane in this market. In this market, that doesn't happen. So congratulations to Jeff. Congratulations to you guys, man. I know a lot of you guys believe in us and believe in the assets that we partner with and get into those assets. So shout out to all the Merlin chain holders out there. So let's kind of get into the next thing here. Gold and silver at all-time highs. How do you feel about this? Does this concern you? Does this worry you about people not getting into the digital form of gold, which we know as Bitcoin, but actually into rocks and metal like silver, and gold?
A little bit, but not too much. And I think it's mainly because I think there are some pretty big gold people and silver people that want to push it one last time before getting into a more risk on environment. And right now is the perfect time to do that, right? Pushing it up, heading into a January, February where stimulus checks can come out, and then people start to get more, risk on and start looking forward to, a SEC chair that's gonna not SEC, Fed chair that's gonna be more, wanting to ignite the economy, right, in the market. So I think this is kind of like, okay, let's get one more pump up, sell down, and then we'll be ready for kind of more risk on environments.
Yeah, no, I agree. But this run, right, from I want to say June of 2020 to now has been insane for gold. You got to remember, gold's a $20 trillion asset. So for gold to go from 2,000 to 4,000, that's $10 trillion. That's 5 times the size, so almost 6 times the size as Bitcoin right now, right? That's insane. This has to be nation states, right? This can't be just retail and companies, but this is actually probably China that's buying the majority of this up, correct?
So I was thinking that, because that's an asset that, China really wants to have that's continually strong, right? I mean, especially if they feel like their adversary is pushing Bitcoin as like the true asset of the world, they're probably going to counter that with gold, right? So
Yeah.
Russia too. So
yeah, this could be China and Russia and Brazil, Venezuela, right? The BRICS nations really kind
it's
of
definitely not Peter Schiff.
coming together. No, I think he has his bags packed for sure. All right, so we talked about it earlier, but we'll jump into it now. Fundstrap, which is Tom Lee's company. Tom Lee is the CEO. They put out an article recently, and in that article, key forecasts and views from Fundstrat's 2026 crypto outlook. God damn, I hate what StreamYard has done to me. Sorry.
What they've done to you personally.
Yeah, it's a personal attack on me. Crypto, because I know I can't read fast. Crypto Outlook by Sean Farrell, Fundstrat's head of digital asset strategy. In the report presents a short-term outlook to subscribers. So you have to subscribe to this, and diverges sharply from public rhetoric to projecting a notable pullback in Q1 of 2026. Bitcoin could revisit 60 to 65,000. Ethereum could visit 1,800 to 2,000. Solana 50 to 75. They basically say this in the article. These are the numbers that potentially they have these buy orders at. It characterizes these drawdown zones as favorable areas to build long-term exposure. How do you feel about Tom Lee's company? I mean, counter, because Tom Lee's the other way, right? So it's like the counter reaction to subscribers now telling us Q1 could be the biggest bear market that we've seen since 2022.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of the CEO of MicroStrategy whenever he came out and said, well, if we had to, we would sell our Bitcoin reserves down. You know what I mean? And it's like you hire these people for a certain position to do their job, and they're just doing their job, right? So it's kind of like, okay, where's the fluff and where's the truth? And you gotta think that figures like Tom Lee and Michael Saylor can never, ever be bearish on those assets ever again, unless they do a full exit and they've satisfied their client or their holder base in TradFi and all these things. That's the only way. And I think like when you're in so deep, like Saylor and Tom Lee's getting there, I don't know if that's even a possibility anymore at any point. So you got to really hope that this Ponzi gets big enough and people are like, Ponzi, what you calling Ponzi, Ethereum, Ponzi, Bitcoin? Come on. Like everything in this world that has monetary value is a kind of Ponzi type situation where you're giving and taking and but nevertheless it can get that big, right? I mean, it did with our traditional system. It's been so well created and managed in the sense of smoke and mirrors that it's a reality now. It's not even smoke and mirrors really, right? And so can they get to that point? Because these comms people that are working for them, whether a CEO or someone that's doing community management within BitMine or whatever, they're gonna put out what they believe is according to their research.
Yeah, 100%. Or is it? Do you think this could be a strategy? So where
Could
it's
be.
like you have the
But
CEO
that doesn't
saying
mean
very
that
bullish.
research always wins either, though. You know what I mean? Because like
Yeah.
people did a lot of research this year, a lot of research, and I gotta say, this is I'm throwing a percentage off the top of my head, but a lot. Okay, I won't even do that because I feel like I hate when people do that. But a large percentage of people that speculated this year were wrong. And
Everyone.
there was a lot of
Everyone was.
people that did a lot of in-depth research and stuff, and so analytics was one of the things that, you know, you'll always use it because it proves trends, it proves, it can prove some sentiment, depending. You can't get deeper than black and white with it, but you can see the numbers and the numbers speak to you, right? But this year, the numbers really weren't able to do that because we didn't get to see under the hood of everything that was happening. We don't even know what truly, from an investigation, caused October 10th. All these situations, and so, for this, I would say, I'm not too worried about it.
So this whole thing is just Q1, right? It's the first quarter of 2026, right? Is there any bone in your body says that Bitcoin could go down 25% from where it is now, Ethereum down 30% from where it is now, Solana down 80% from where it is now? Is there's no party that says, hey, there's no chance Q1 and the bottom.
I mean, there could be, just because like the strategy part that you're talking about, right?
Mhm.
Like in that John was talking about earlier, and about just beating down the prices to the point to
Mhm.
where like their clients are scooping everything up, and then we go into a risk on relaxed environment and everything shoots up, but like you're getting pummeled, hard before any of that happens, right? So that's the scenario that I see. But Stan has a good question here. He says, is this the first widespread research failure? Not at all, I don't think. I mean, I can think of one off the top of my head with the 08-09 crisis, to where everybody
Oh,
was
yeah.
bullish as hell because everybody was making so much money because of subprime
They went
financing.
2-3 houses as well,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, like 500 credit, I got you. Come over here. Let me sign you up for a mansion. You got 600 credit, 550 credit, I got you. And these brokerages and underwriters were making money over a fist because of this. And now, I think the researcher that got that right actually got it right was Michael Berry, right? Because he was like, and let's give credit to his quant, because I think that was the
Yeah.
person that really said, "Hey, hold on a second, you have an opportunity here."
Yeah.
But that was a complete research failure.
Yeah, 100%. And people who seen it made a lot of money off that, right? But think about this, like, so it was so easy for people to get property and loans and stuff. How many people actually made out really well by that, by taking
Took
the
advantage of it.
took advantage of it and actually kept paying
Pro-
back and
Probably a
found a way
small
to
percentage.
you think so?
Yeah, well,
I actually think
yeah.
there's a lot of people that are, that are very intelligent, that's saying, I can take this loan out. Yes, it might be a little hard, but I can do it, instead of just being completely idiotic and saying 3 houses as a stripper, let's do it. I think this prime mortgage thing might have created a bunch of millionaires that no one really talks about, though. I thought about that watching the movie.
I see. So I don't necessarily think it's as much to do with the income as it had to do with the credit history. And if you look at the credit history, the credit system has been pretty proven to show that, like, if don't care about your credit, it's going to be hard to change that mindset, right? And
I don't
so
know.
I think there's anomalies. There's anomalies. If someone's in a bad situation, single mother going to school, that type of
But when you're
situation, and
young,
she
though, did you care about credit? I was using credit
no,
for anything when I
but
was younger.
but
Yeah.
but but my point
That's
that I'm making is that you have, like, okay, so if you have that credit score that is typically not approvable, right? But all of a sudden now you're starting to get approved. There's going to be more than not that fail.
No, I
And
100% agree with that. I'm just
yeah,
saying, I think 20, 25% of those people actually made out significant.
maybe
Because they got
they made
property really
out, but I
cheap
mean,
and
but not necessarily made out. I mean, they were just like someone that had like a, 750 or 800 credit that just got, bought a house. It's not making
I mean,
out.
in the movie, they were like 550 and getting $1 million loan. Like that was the big thing in the movie. If that guy did that and now he, his property value tripled since 2008, maybe quadrupled. I mean, all he had to do was keep paying back that loan, baby, and he
But
essentially 4x his money.
but
He borrowed money.
if you remember what the problem was, it was the
It
amount
was
of
the strippers taking
no.
these 3 houses loans. I blame the
No.
strippers for the 28 crash, bro. Or 20,
No, it
or
was,
28,
but
20.
it was the foreclosures, right? The foreclosures were
Yeah.
absolutely horrible in cities like Vegas,
Mhm.
states like Florida, which
Angeles.
coincides with your theory there about the dancing people, that
Yeah.
the girls that dance and stuff like that, or guys that dance too, whatever. And the thing is that like those areas got hit so brutally hard that it affected the entire like companies that were associated with it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And so in California, New Mexico, parts of every state got hit,
Yeah.
to a certain extent. So
100%. Myself says, how much actual net new capital inflow do you think it took for gold to go from 10 trillion to 20 trillion? I honestly think it came from like 3 or 4 entities. Honestly, I think it came from China, Russia, and Brazil. I think Venezuela is buying a ton of gold up right now because they're worried about, potential getting overtaken right now. I think everyone's kind of getting ready and also you got to remember, a lot of people are leaving the dollar. Warren Buffett just came out last week or maybe 2 weeks ago and said that they're diversifying their dollars into yen, of all places, Japanese yen. So they put $750 billion into Japanese yen.
dang,
Yeah, so
there's something
I
with that
think
we got to figure out.
something's happening to the dollar, unless they're just worried about Trump printing like going crazy, like we hope he does, right? Maybe they're just
Well, he
front-running
definitely
that.
is.
Well, maybe they're just like, hey, Trump's gonna print crazy right now. New Fed, I don't want my dollars being devalued, so I'm getting out.
And it seems like the Japan's kind of going a bit the opposite direction. They're becoming more
Amazing,
conservative with financially, right? So maybe they feel it like it's more stable. And there's going to be people that are going to be pouring into Bitcoin eventually, though, too, because like the value of it, you win even if the dollar is inflated, because you win. The value of Bitcoin goes up so much
Yeah.
that you just win in that trade, right? So it's going to be interesting in 2026 to see how all that plays out.
Yeah. I just really hope that this Tom Lee guy isn't correct and
He
not Tom
isn't
Lee, but someone
correct?
from his team. I
Oh,
mean,
okay. I was like,
if Bitcoin hits 60,000, I mean, I know one guy who's going to get his loan taken out, right? So it's like his leverage Bitcoin position. So I don't know. It's one of those things where could be a lot more pain to come, bro, and we might be like 3 months away from an actual bottom.
could be, but we shall see.
JPMorgan is exploring offering cryptocurrency trading services to its institutional clients. I'm surprised they haven't already done this, but JPMorgan, I guess, is just a laggard because there's a lot of other banks right now that are doing this, PNC being one of them. JPMorgan coming in now, they seem to be the most crypto-friendly bank in the last 2 weeks. They're coming out. You had the chairman come out and really explain how digital assets work to a news reporter. And I was like, oh, wow, he gets it. He finally gets it. But yeah, I don't know. How do you feel about JPMorgan now potentially trading services to institutional clients, kind of following BlackRock, PNC, and a bunch of others?
I mean, I just think that they're getting into their position. Like these large institutions and banks and things like that. They first of all, they're all on the same team. So they're not fighting amongst each other at the moment. There will be a time, I think, whenever that goes back to where it's more competitive between each. But as of right now, it's kind of like getting their feet in or getting into their position, learning where they're going to have the best advantage. And they have smartest people that are researching for them and making all these decisions. And I mean, look, I love what digital gold was. He was talking about digital gold, but I think there's going to be a big, it's a big battle. It's a big force, and so you need more digital golds or people like that, and hopefully we can be a part of a movement like that, because you're basically going from, I think, like people that were playing pickup basketball, let's say, like that's like crypto Twitter people, and playing against maybe like D2 college players, the whales that were here the entire time, to going to crypto Twitter being regular pickup basketball people to playing like in the league,
LeBron
in the
James
NBA.
and
Yeah. And so it's just such an unfair advantage, and people, it is what it is. That's what's happening right now. It is a expert at money extraction in such a sneaky and smooth way that it's so subtle you don't notice it, you don't feel it right away, but that's who we're playing against now.
And those people that are coming on the court want to play, they want to get you off the court so they can put one of their boys in, right? So, and that's the thing too, right? They want to get you off the court. They want to come into the gym, watch you play for a second, get on the court, and then beat you so bad that you get off the court.
It's the dream team. It's the dream team beating all the international teams up from, was it 92 or whatever? And like we're the international teams that were horrible. I mean, we were good, whatever, before they get. But look, that doesn't mean that it's over, right? There's still going to be parts of our space that I think that are going to grow with time, that they're not going to be necessarily interested in necessarily, right? But those parts of the spaces I think can be very, very vital to like creating like these like specialists, you know what I mean? And I think that's where we fit in, because I think you're gonna be able to make tons of money doing that, by the way. So we'll see.
CryptoPunks enter the museum. MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art, adds 8 punks to its permanent collection, which they can never sell. So we have 8 punks now have entered the MoMA for the very first time. NFTs are entering the Museum of Modern Art. Big deal? No, just big for punks. What do you think? Nothing burger?
Well, the Goosenolls were over in MoMA.
Well, technically
they were. It was created first, right? It was
yeah.
created first, and then the Goosenolls were created after that. This is the opposite. Yes. Yeah. So, but I saw MoMA and I was like, oh, I remember that word.
Yeah. That was the background for one of the gooses. Yeah.
Yep, but yeah, I mean, cool integration. So societal integration. This is cool.
Coinbase agreed to acquire prediction market startup The Clearing Company, which raised 15 million seed round earlier this year, backed by Coinbase Ventures. So Coinbase just came in and said, "Hey, we already own a portion of you guys anyway. We just want the whole damn thing." But now Coinbase is using Kalshi, and potentially they want to use their own. So buying the clearinghouse gives them the structure to kind of build on top of it. Coinbase, the partnership with Kalshi, kind of going out the window here. Do you think with this? Is this eventually Coinbase prediction market is home?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why they would, partner with the competitor. Well,
that was before they had this, right? So
yeah,
you somebody and then you buy this.
So I don't think they'll continue that partnership or whatever, right? So they've been going through a lot of just kind of pivots here and there. I feel like, Farcaster, I don't think they're going to be interested as much in them anymore. This is like a pivot going away from Kalshi doing their own thing, but I think it's because they see their competitors doing similar things. Binance did that, right? They came up with their own predictions market. They have their perps, on-chain perps. So what's Coinbase's on-chain perps going to be? I don't know.
Yep, I agree. Nic Carter, big Bitcoin guy, Bitcoin maxi, he comes out with an article over the weekend, and it basically Bitcoin developers are sleepwalking towards collapse. He basically gets in here and basically says, like, he has a lot of information. I mean, this thing is insanely big. Like it's like 19 or 25 paragraphs or something in between there, 19 and 25, he said. And it basically digging in, and basically what ChatGPT told me, because I didn't get a chance to read it yet, basically says that it is saying developers cannot sleepwalk towards it, and they are right now. They're not doing enough to get ready for what's going to come next. And he's saying, everyone's saying like 5 years. He's saying this time next year, we potentially could have quantum chips on the market, Willow chip and stuff like that. And if that gets into the wrong hands, we could start cracking some of these Bitcoin addresses that begin with 1. He's not really worried about the SegWit and the Taproot, but he is worried about the phishing attacks potentially that could be put on Satoshi's wallet and wallets like his, right? The ones that are like from 2010, 2011. Do you think he's right here? Do you think Bitcoin Core is not doing their job here and not really picking things up? Because he spoke with Bitcoin Core, and they're just not ready.
I mean, this is kind of the reason why I always go back to where I think that Bitcoin needs a foundation that is, and people are just going to be against it because of the, fundamentals of Bitcoin and all these things. But that's why Bitcoin is, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, right? Bitcoin has been kind of stuck with innovation. There's been attempts to push it, but every time there's attempts to push innovation, it's there's no core authority. There's no core authority, and because of that, like, you're so disorganized. And we talked about that with our Merlin Monday episode that we dropped this morning, right? I think we dropped it, or late last night.
Yeah, it's dropped late last night. Yeah, well,
okay.
Yeah, as soon as Monday started, basically.
Yeah, so you could watch that, and we go into that. But do you think that Bitcoin should have a foundation, like an overall like centralized foundation, and could that ever work?
The problem with that is that foundation would have to have an extension, a huge amount of the hash power, right? So for instance, like foundations now that proof of stake, they control, 15, 20, 30% of the supply. So which means they control about 15, 30% of the say. A foundation that doesn't have any say in the governance of the protocol. And as we know right now, there's, these Bitcoin miners have the governance. So what can they do, right? Like,
I mean,
even
BlackRock
if we have a
would
foundation,
have to own so much of the miner stock that they could be that force to kind of get that going. Maybe that happens, and maybe that's not such a good thing. Maybe it is.
BlackRock owning 30% of the hash power. Dude, that's the worst case scenario.
I know, but like that's the only situation to where I feel like there will be like a viable foundation that can direct shit, because that's the problem. I mean, there is some organization with like Bitcoin Core developers and stuff, right? There's like, it's so political though, and they either get pushed one way or the other, or this, that, and the other. But like, because the nature of Bitcoin, it's like there's groups outside of Core that's like, no, screw this, screw these Core developers. I mean, we see it with Luke Dash Jr., we see it with Jack Dorsey, which I can't stand that guy so much. But we see it with people like, Ocean Mining and all these that are just, there's groups that are like, no, this is how it should go. No, this is how, and it's in the history. It's like in the history of Bitcoin. There was forks because of it, and all these different things. And it's like, does it ever get that directional kind of like organizational like cohesiveness too? Because there's no cohesiveness really. There's cohesiveness in groups.
Yeah,
that's it.
Well, that's the problem with decentralization, right? There's no leader. For instance, like Ethereum, right? There was 11 co-founders. There's only one of them left still running Ethereum, right?
There's a reason for that, though,
right? So they all had different ideas. Charles wanted to do something some way. Gavin Wood wanted to do another way. Lubin wanted to go another way. Everyone had their own way. So eventually it came down to they all left to create their own projects, or you could, like, in your thoughts, forks, right? But the problem with Bitcoin is, like, these guys,
there isn't 11 guys that started together that said we are the founding group. That's the difference.
Microsoft was close to that, maybe 7 or 8 guys.
No. I'm saying
Oh,
like
with Bitcoin itself, yeah.
there wasn't an official like we
Yeah.
are the founding group. So everybody else that was developing outside of those founding people, they were like taking stuff to these guys or like, you know, working
Well,
like towards to help them and all these things. And with Bitcoin, it just hasn't been that case. Like there hasn't
there
been a
was in the early days.
centralized authority. Yeah, but for what? Like a year, he never showed his face. He never went to.
Well, no. I'm talking in 2013. So in 2013, Satoshi left. He left Gavin Andreessen in charge. Gavin had a coalition of probably like 15 or 16 Bitcoin guys, but I feel like they all got rich and stopped trying. Like they just kind of just like, yeah, that's fine. Bitcoin's in good hands, and they all just kind of did their
like why would
Satoshi thing.
why? Yeah, exactly. Like, but why would they even try to form anything that they feel like this is more of a nuisance to us than it is anything because we're rich already now, right?
Well,
now,
they
if you have a
Bitcoin Core. Bitcoin
if
Core
you-
was the foundational thing from those guys in the early days.
if you look at something like Ethereum, you know, to where it was a passion that was, you know, started by some of these guys, but Vitalik was leading that. I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? He was leading that. He left Bitcoin because they didn't want him developing on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, well, I'm gonna make something really cool. And he did, but like everybody looked towards them. Hey, that's never been a case, maybe in those early days, but then they dispersed. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like, and the fact that maybe it's
some of them died off. Hal Finney,
Yeah,
you know, so
yeah.
it's just like Adam Back kind of just went and built his own thing as well. So,
but arguments is what's caused a lot of that, though. You know, just going away. So, you know, disagreements, arguments, those type of things is what really caused. I feel like not having this. You know,
these damn headphones today. I'm sorry. What
you-
you say?
I was just saying, like, arguments and disagreements is what caused a lot of like the centralized authority dissipating in Bitcoin. But like people say, well, there's never supposed to be a centralized authority with Bitcoin. Sure, but didn't expect, you know, innovation to be stifled and, you know, just constantly having tribe. It's the most tribal chain by far internally. Like there's no other tribal chain internally, really. You know, every other chain they work together to make things better. Like Bitcoin is very tribalistic internally because they want, and we said this again on the episode, but they want what is coming to them, every person, every group, everything, you know. But go ahead.
I was just gonna say there's a thing too where if they do make these changes and we don't like them, we don't have to follow them, right? That's the big thing about Bitcoin too, is like once there's a fork, you have to direct your node to follow this. You actually have to do something during a fork. Everyone has to agree that we're gonna follow this one, right? So there's always that as well. So any change that can happen doesn't mean I can follow the old chain, right? So
but it
that's a big
trickles down.
difference
It
too.
trickles down. That ideology and that mindset trickles down to even like the very like meta protocol level, right? To where, you know, we talk about Casey and ordinals and these things to where he could have taken control of the ordinals protocol. You know, he decided that's not what he wanted to do, and I think that has to do with him being a developer with Bitcoin and hanging around Bitcoin people for so long.
Yeah.
But we kind of got off the topic of this part right here, where it's like, you know, quantum, they got to prepare for that.
Yeah.
But I also think like the big, you know, people that are investing in Bitcoin largely, like, you know, Michael Saylor and BlackRock and these institutions will make sure that what needs to happen gets done, or Bitcoin's going to crash down to $6,000.
Yeah, and markets are forward looking, which kind of scares a little bit as well. So they got to start working on it soon. Jump to the next thing here. So Aave DAO votes on seizing control of brand assets from founder tensions. So this is kind of why after I saw it down so much, I went and like kind of looked it up. And the reason why it's down, a snapshot poll launched December 22nd after December 16th. Forum proposed that BGD Labs co-founder Ernesto Bodo seeks to transfer assets like Aave.com and Aave to the DAO-controlled entity to ensure that token holders benefit from revenues. How do you feel about this? They want to actually go after the founders, you know, Aave.com and everything else here, and that's kind of why somebody today, a whale, and people are kind of thinking it might be the founder of Aave, dumped 230,000 Aave for $37 million, causing Aave to drop like we saw 13%.
Yeah. So what are the founders trying to do? Are they trying to benefit the holders? Sorry, I didn't get that
Yeah,
part.
the basically it was happening is the somebody put up a proposal on the network to seize the Aave.com and stuff from the founder's control and basically put it in the control of the foundation itself. Right.
Okay.
So you have, so you know, like let's just say I created the chain, I would go buy Aave.com. Right now I own it, but the foundation's like, yo, we should own that. Right. Like why did the founder, you know, and potentially when you do, he can go in and make front end changes. You know, it's not decentralized. So the foundation's like, yo, no. You got to bring that in, right? You got to bring that into the foundation. So potentially this guy got pissed off and said, F you guys, and then dumped a good portion of his Aave.
And he's the founder that dumped it. The people are saying.
Well, no one knows for sure,
Yeah.
obviously.
But they're
He's, you know,
assuming, they're speculating that he's the cause of this. Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, dude, like I feel like disagreements in Web3 is good, like could just ends up being so bad,
I
so
know.
nasty, so nasty. I mean, the foundation has a point, you know, but yeah, I don't know. I guess it pissed him off. If that's him,
Yeah, if
regardless,
that's
you know, that sucks for the Aave holders, right? Aave seems to be a pretty strong, been around for a very long time DeFi protocol. So that sucks to see that, you know, the market cap took that that big of a hit.
And you know, Avi's down just from September, you know, from September too. So yeah, it's been just kind of getting beaten up. But that's our last topic here. We'll get into news from the trenches here. Anything going on in the trenches that we should be aware about? Anything that you're interested in or anything like that?
No, not really. I mean, I am starting to see. So about 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, I was seeing the USD1 tokens getting pushed through the trenches, new pairs, almost bonded, and then migrated, right? There was quite a bit of traffic of USD1 tokens from Bonk. And then leading up to the breakpoint, Solana breakpoint in Abu Dhabi, that just went silent. Like I didn't see any of them come through. And then late last night, early this morning, I started seeing more of the USD1 pairs come through, right? And so I'm just kind of curious is like, what is the Bonk team doing? What, like, they've put out their multiple posts saying, hey, you know, we're looking at USD1 pairs with this Will-Fi push and kind of campaign, you know, and we're going to be looking at certain pairs with communities that are growing, and we're going to start adding them to strategic reserves. So I think there's people in the trenches that are like literally waiting for Bonk to start doing stuff. You know what I mean? You know, maybe it's not the right market for that, but they did put posts out, right? And I think that they need to be, you know, communicating about it, you know, because I think that's something that could really turn the trenches around for the better. You know, there's a lot of slop that gets put on in meme coins in terms of launching the 1,000th freaking dog coin of the month or whatever, and this, that, and the other. But I think if you have a movement in the trenches, like trying to promote USD1 with Will-Fi and Bonk on Solana, the memes can mean more. They can have more community and reasons why they have success. And so I think that could be a successful part of the meme sector. Right now might be too early. Maybe they're thinking, you know, there needs to be a little bit more healing in the meme sector before, but like, then why post about it, right? So it's like people are preparing. When you post like that on bonk.fun, post like that, people that do research and stuff, they start preparing these USD1 pairs. You know I have. And I believe in that, by the way. You know, full disclosure. I believe if the USD1 movement does happen, it's going to be good for memes on Solana. And I think the founders of Solana would actually prefer that rather than doing these just crazy constant, like thousands of memes every second, right? But, you know, I think people are just waiting on what's the next move for Bonk or Will-Fi or USD1. Like, you know, what's the strategy with this? Should we spray and pray? You know, obviously you want to look for ones with communities. What is a community even more anymore, right? Like at this point, like what's a community with relating to memes anymore? Is it creating a X community? And, you know, I ain't gonna lie, I check location every single time that, like, whenever someone creates an X community.
Yeah.
And it's nothing about anybody personally or anything, but like, I just want to know if it's like more of the scammy areas versus more of the less scammy but still scammy areas. Almost all of them are.
Yeah.
But anyways.
So you do have, you have Bonk creating this USD1 meme coins, stuff like that, right? But then you have Pump creating, these, ICM, Internet Capital Markets, Creator Capital Markets. Are you seeing anything from Bonk that would make you maybe believe
Pump.
that?
You mean?
No, do you see anything from Bonk that you make like? I feel like Pump is really kind of pushing these markets, and Bonk is just hey, instead of using Solana, let's just USD1. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like Bonk might get left behind here. What, do you feel that way or no?
Well, I don't think they will if the meme domination gets rotated to them. Okay. Because there's still a lot of interest in gambling on memes, and and if they have a movement, it could actually create some sustainability, but we haven't heard from them in a long time, right? And so it's just kind of like one of those things. But we, as much as like we've talked about Pump being focused on the ICM and CCM part of things, we haven't heard from Elon. We haven't heard from their Pump team necessarily. We have heard a little bit of this and that from, Jake from Hustle, because he's working with some migrations, right, that are more ICM focused. But the communication right now in our space is atrocious from founders. It is atrocious. And like, we have a couple of partners that do amazing at it, by the way, with like Jake and Agent Hustle and Jeff and Merlin, and Omnity's kind of working on their comms, but they're still doing it. They have a representative in the West, and then we help them with that. But I feel like the large entities right now, their communications are horrible. They're horrible, because people are just sitting there like, okay, the gamblers are still gambling, but we're hearing about this ICM stuff, we're hearing about this USD1 stuff. What's happening?
There's some small ones that are really bad too, right? Like Pasternak's thing. I mean, that one was terrible. I mean, they didn't even know that thing was migrating.
He's exited the space, and I think he was.
That's what I mean, though.
I think he was planning on that. I think he was planning on that for a while. I mean, my personal opinion. There's no facts, but like, I don't have any evidence behind it. But I was in the Believe ecosystem dabbling and stuff. That was, first of all, horrible during like way better market conditions, not amazing market conditions, but way better, and horrible communication. And then just, I mean, he needs to not be in Web3. He needs to be as far away from Web3 as possible, and probably, any company.
But, Ethan Marcus from Flashnet, garbage. Absolutely, when it comes to comms, right? You have Unisat, terrible at communication. Even Alkane's founders, right? Kind of really terrible communication too. And then back to Solana, you do have, you have some good ones. I think Pump Fund, for a lot of heat they get. I think, with Elon not speaking right now and stuff like that, I think it's fine, because he has spoken, in the past and stuff like that. When there's updates,
go look at Pump Fund and Elon's X accounts. Like, he definitely was like on a rhythm before, and then all of a sudden, when Mayhem launched, ghost. And so it's like everybody. There was even like jokes.
Pretty bad, though.
There was like jokes that like he passed away. And first of all, you don't joke about jokes? That. But they were creating meme coins on it. Of course, that's how the freaking the Pump Fund space is, right? But anyhow, so that's kind of the current situation of the trenches. I'm constantly paying attention, just because you never know whenever that one big coin comes out or something like that. I mean, it is very risky. We all know that. But I mean, when you hear that's the most disappointing stuff, is like when you actually hear something that sounds like a good idea or plan or campaign, like the USD1 thing. I think that's a good plan. I think that's a good campaign. I think that could help the reputation of memes on Solana. Do it.
And then nothing, nothing goes up. But it is a market of nothing going up, though, right? So
it's a market of nothing going up. Yeah, it's a market of nothing going up.
It's terrible. Well, that's our show for you guys today. Remember that this week will be a shorter week. We're going to go Monday and Tuesday, which is tomorrow's going to be our last day. Off Wednesday and Thursday. And maybe we'll do like a short show on Friday. So definitely check that out. And then back to normal next week, of course. But really appreciate you guys rocking with us today. We're live on Facebook now for the very first time. Twitch, Abstract, Rumble. We're gonna stop going live on Kick because it just doesn't feel worth it to us, and we're gonna replace that with Facebook. So sorry, our Kick people, but over there. But yeah, shout out to every single one of you guys, man. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely, guys. You guys are amazing. Without you guys, we could not do this show, and we're so appreciative of that. But also, without our partners, we couldn't do it. So if you could check them out, we would be very grateful. Emblem Vault is the interoperability layer of the Bitcoin ecosystem. If you're looking to take your Bitcoin ordinals or Bitcoin NFTs, like Rare Pepes and Nakamoto cards, over to Ethereum, you got to use Emblem Vault. Why? Because they've been doing it since 2021, and they've been building on Bitcoin since 2013. So they have all the experience, and they are the number one, and I think only service provider to do this right now. So we've got to take advantage of that. They're going to open this up to other layers as well in ecosystems, and Solana, HBAR, BSC, those are all on the list. Speaking of those ecosystems, they have the best AI in those ecosystems called agenthustle.ai. If you can go into Agent Hustle, turn on all those chains, and you can ask Hustle, hey, find me a low cap gem or a couple low cap gems, and he will bring back the options for you, tell you reasons why he thinks that these are solid. You can also do conditional trading within Agent Hustles. There's a conditional trading engine built right inside the AI. There's a free level of subscription to where you can test it out. It's a limited number of prompts though, so just know that you'll probably run out pretty quick, but you can get a little taste. If you really want to have the advantage and the edge, you got to level up to the paid subscriptions, and you can use the Hustle token, which is a single token that powers the entire Emblem ecosystem, to pay for your subscription, and you'll get a 30% discount if you use the Hustle token. Yeah, so very, very exciting stuff here. There is another product in their ecosystem called Migrate.fun. You might have heard us talk about that multiple times throughout our shows, but Migrate.fun is the premier migration service. So if you launched a token on PumpFun or Bonk.fun or anywhere, and you want to migrate to another launchpad or manage your own LPs, you got to use Migrate.fun. They are crushing it. This is their third migration since they started in August. It's pretty much a migration every month, and this one's loaded up with migrations to Pump, and this is the ICM meta migration, I would like to say. There are a couple memes in here, but that's why we've been talking about ICM and CCMs, because we see it happening, right? So go check it out. They are still in the process of the current cohort. If you're interested, you can reach out to them at migrate.fun or emblem.vision. Ask them if you can get into the next one. But yeah, head to those websites to learn more, and check out migrate.fun and emblem.vision. And then Merlin Chain is uniting Bitcoin strength through the power of their AI, as they have their Wizard version 2.0 that guides you through the Merlin ecosystem. But it can also help swap outside the Merlin ecosystem. You can swap for Solana or BSC tokens. You got to have some Merlin Bitcoin in your wallet, your Merlin Chain wallet, which can be a MetaMask or one of the Bitcoin wallets like Unisat, Xverse, etc. And they can swap for some popular tokens in Solana or BSC for you, right? But going back to the ecosystem, the Wizard can do, DeFi swaps for you, can also stake for you on your behalf. Speaking of staking, they have a proof of stake security model for Merlin Chain. And there's 3 ways you can participate. The first way is staking a Bitcoin to earn more Bitcoin, right? That is amazing. Who doesn't want to do that? Everybody wants to do that, right? Their first staking vault ended September 30th, and they got 17% APR for their stakers. I think there was 76 Bitcoin that staked in that. And the current staking vault ends January 8th. It's pretty, I think you got 2 weeks maybe for that, but you can still earn. They're going to shoot for that same APR around there, minimum 8%, maximum 21%. It does end January 8th, and they will be opening up another staking vault for that. But amazing, staking Bitcoin, earn Bitcoin, you get paid in Bitcoin, right? And then there's 2 ways to stake using the Merlin Chain token, which is on fire, by the way. The first way is the flexible day-to-day staking option. you earn 15% APR in the staking vaults. You can claim your rewards every single day, roll them up into compound interest, keep them in your wallet, sell them, whatever you want to do, that's up to you. If you do want to withdraw the Merlin Chain token, there's a 7-day cooldown period for this one. So just know that, but 7 days is nothing, right? And then the next option is the bonded option, which is a 6-month lockup. You earn 45% APR in this one. And you can claim your rewards daily, which is awesome for a 6-month lockup, right? So you can still do that part. But of course, you got to wait 6 months until it unlocks to pull your Merlin Chain token out of there. But that is the staking options that merlinchain.io has. Visit the website, follow them on X, and make sure you check out our Merlin Monday videos that we put out. Very good information in those. And lastly is our latest partner, Satsman.fun. Satsman.fun is the premier launchpad for Bitcoin Layer 1 runes. They leverage ICP tech stack to make it a good UI UX experience for the users. Right now, they're focused on the 3 Genesis tokens that the team launched there, and it looks like the 7Z already bonded out and minted. But I'm really bullish on the Land Wolf one. You can see it's one of those characters from Matt Fury, the creator of Pepe. Land Wolf is kind of like that wolf character that has the Bitcoin glasses on. So I think this could be like a one of those mascots for the Bitcoin Layer 1 runes, right? So I'm definitely interested in that one. It looks like it's starting to heat up and get more minted out there. I think it's at 62% or something like that. So still some time in there, so check that out for sure. Also, we're going to be doing a video later this week on just the basic fundamentals of Bitcoin Layer 1 assets and why runes are an important asset class, right? Living on the mother chain is a big deal, and we see entities like Kraken and other large entities really pay attention to that. So we'll get into that, educate you guys a bit more on Bitcoin Layer 1 assets as well. But we thank you guys for checking out our partners.
Yep. Great job, man. As always, you guys have a few more minutes. If you wouldn't mind checking out OnChainRevolution.io. We have a new article here, Merlin Chain, all about it. This has just been such a huge winner. And in this article, you guys can learn all about everything that you need to know about the Merlin Chain token. Coinbase, it's just, wow. It's still baffling to me. It's crazy. But yeah, we got other articles here about Omni and the Fed and a whole bunch more. If you guys need a VPN, I highly recommend Nord. I use it each and every single day. Lock that in for 2 years. You get an extra 3 months. You lock it in for $2.99. You're paying about $70 for about 27 months. So that is absolutely awesome. Set it, forget it. I mean, honestly, it would be like the next bull market by the time this thing is ready for you to upgrade again or sign up again. So, but make sure you guys use our link. If you go to the website itself, you're going to be paying $11.59. Don't do it. Use our link here. Pay the $2.99. And if you guys need a hardware wallet or you want to get yourself something for Christmas, we highly recommend the Ledger. And if we are having a bear market and you want to make sure you don't sell, the best thing to do is pop that thing into a Ledger Nano S. This is my personal favorite. You get it right now for $59.99. I don't know what kind of deal they're having right now. This was $70 last week. Now it's $59. Get yourself a Christmas present if you're interested here. So definitely check that out. Ledger Nano X and so much more. Check everything out here at OnChainRevolution.io. Remember, guys, we are live Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Pacific, and 3 p.m. UTC. Check us out all week, guys, and until tomorrow.
Peace.
OnChain Revolution roll call. Market recap. You're not bullish enough. No. You're not bullish enough. No. Look at the price go. Bitcoin control. Why you still coping? Price action rolling. Don't fall for bear trap. Swapping indexes and putting it up in the sex. I can take profit right now. OnChain is where I be now. You can never look back. They don't want you to know. How did the market react? Fear and greed gotta adapt. Now we bridging the tokens and arching the network right now. You know how crazy we are. Nookies are savages now. They know how crazy we are. Chain abstraction, main attraction.